Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we will be talking about this insane new poll from Ipsos, which is a B-rated pollster for Reuters. Of course, they're a news service. They show Kamala Harris with a stunning 6% lead over Donald Trump despite apparently a narrowing race. This reputable pollster Ipsos shows Harris with 6% on Trump. That's 50% for Harris. She is breaking 50%. Almost a majority of voters are choosing her, compared to Donald Trump at 44%. Even with undecided voters, she is at 50%. So this is obviously a great poll for her. You see that she is getting, or that this post is getting a lot of attention, of course, because of how out of the ordinary a poll like this is. Again, 6% is not something that we typically see for either candidate. Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, neither of them are, in a position right now where it seems like in these partisan and divided times to have a lead by 6%. So what this would mean is that Kamala Harris would be expanding on the margin that Joe Biden won by in the 2020 election. If you recall, of course, Joe Biden won by a total of 4.5%, or at least that was the margin, in the 2020 popular vote. Now, of course, the popular vote doesn't dictate who is elected president. The electoral vote does, but how the popular vote falls tells us a lot about the race, obviously. If Joe Biden won by 4.5%, the popular vote in 2020, and Kamala Harris is now gaining on that, she's gaining 1.5%, right? It's going from 4.5 to 6. She's gaining 1.5%. Then we would expect somewhere near a gain of 1.5% for Kamala Harris in virtually every state. Now, of course, it would differ by state because of how each state is trending, which state is, which direction each state is trending. But you get the general idea. In almost every single state, and almost definitely all the battleground states, Kamala Harris would be making improvements on where Joe Biden was in 2020. This is my prediction right now. But if Kamala Harris, I don't have Kamala Harris winning by 6%. This is absolutely out of the ordinary. But if we start to see more polls like this, if Kamala Harris, um, you know, can effectively make the case for herself and pretty commonly take a lead by 6% in polls, we'll see if it happens. Then she will absolutely be able to expand her margins. In my prediction, here are the margins. This is my election forecast right now that in the spreadsheet. She would absolutely expand her margins for sure. Looking at the 2020 results, whoops, those are the Senate races, but looking at the 2020 results, if Joe Biden won by 4.5% in each of these states and Kamala Harris is gaining somewhere around 1.5% in every one of them, then you would see states like Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia pretty comfortably fall into that lean characterization. You'd see Nevada almost become likely. Michigan almost become likely. That would be a 4.3% margin for Harris in Michigan. That becomes a state that you barely even need to worry about come election day. You know it's in your column. Maybe most importantly, Pennsylvania becomes pretty comfortably in that lean column. It would go to her by 2.7%. Not, still close, but nothing to scoff at. And then you'd have a state like North Carolina flip. If Kamala Harris really is gaining 1.5% in the state of North Carolina, then she would win it. It would be razor thin. It would be by 0.2%, but she'd win North Carolina. Florida would become incredibly close. That'd be reduced to a 1 point win for Trump. And then Texas would fall into that very close lean characterization. So this is not what that map would produce, but it would produce something like this. Again, Arizona would become lean. North Carolina would be till, but Georgia would be lean as well. Florida, again, would be just a 1 point margin, and Kamala Harris would make gains nationwide, really would change how we look at elections and especially how we look at Trumpism and populism. Is this era of Trump over if he's able to win? If Harris defies all expectations, kind of an opposite of 2016 situation where Harris defies all expectations and beats him quite handily, right? She is expected to win the election by most forecasters right now, but she beats him by quite a lot. That would be defying expectations for her. So again, this is my current prediction. But this is, again, Harris with winning with less, by a less than 4.5% margin in the popular vote, right? Somewhere around 3.5%, maybe even less, maybe towards 3%, but it's certainly less than 4.5, and it's absolutely less than a 6 point margin as this Reuters poll conducted by Ipsos is predicting. Now, Harris is only ahead by 2.5%. It's very interesting to see polls like this because, polling has been very conflicting. This video is going to be mostly about how really strange this polling is because you've got a wide range of polls. Harris is at a almost one of the lowest points. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I mean, there's been days where she's been down, but this is the average of polls since the beginning of this Harris versus Trump matchup. And as you can see, Kamala Harris today leads by 2.5% on average. Now, mind you, this is not including that +6 poll, but it barely changed anything, maybe 0.2%. Now, as we move back in history, we see that the last time she has been below a 2.5% margin was on September 11th, 13 days ago. And before that, you will see it was right in the beginning of the race. I mean, 2.4%, or less than 2.5%. So it would be 2.4% or less. It was actually around August 10th. That was around the last time. Yeah, she was at 2.3. That was about the last time Kamala Harris had a lead of less than 2.4%. August 11th. That was a month and 13 days ago. So she obviously would have liked to expand her lead after the DNC, after the first presidential debate. I mean, these significant events that a decade ago would have had huge impact on the polling, where candidates stand in the polling. Nothing changes it because of how partisan we are as a nation. It's only marginal. These changes are only marginal. And I don't think that the Harris campaign even cares, as they shouldn't, that she's only ahead by 2.5 now when she was ahead by 3.3 on September 18th. That's a 0.8% difference. It's so incredibly marginal. It really doesn't matter. Even if she gains a point after the debate, I mean, it comes back to really like the 13 keys. I'm not a huge fan of Alan Lichtman and his 13 keys, but he says that the winner really is decided. We don't have to talk about these marginal differences. So, yes, it's been pretty stagnant the entire race, and that is the point I'm trying to make across. But I will say that Kamala Harris is the only candidate in this race who is leading, who is occasionally getting polls where she's ahead by 6. And she's actually the only candidate in the race who is even winning any general election polls. We see that the last polls that showed Trump ahead were the New York Times Siena College poll from September 11th, 13 days ago. Very rare occurrence. You see that since September 11th through the 12th, September 12th, there have only been 2 polls, Atlas Intel and New York Times, that have shown Donald Trump ahead. Those are the only 2. So Kamala Harris, while she needs to win the popular vote by somewhere around at least 3% in order to win the Electoral College, she is the only candidate who occasionally will get polls where she's ahead by 6, as in this Ipsos poll. Ipsos poll, or Outward Intelligence where she's up by 6, or Outward Intelligence when you include third parties where she's up by 7, or up by 4 in YouGov, or whatever the case may be, +5 in Harris X. So, which is not associated with her despite the common consensus when they see the name. So, the point is, Donald Trump is not in a great position right now because Kamala Harris, if she does win, she is just set is, the polls would be right. Donald Trump would have to once again outpace, have a huge upset and really outpace where the polls are right now. When you've got polls pretty commonly now coming out with Harris +4 leads, +5 leads. And then you've even occasionally got these polls from, for example, this one from this Ipsos poll that shows Kamala Harris up by 6 or even up by 7 in a couple polls. This would mean that, of course, Kamala Harris is way ahead. These polls would have to be pretty far off for a Donald Trump to win the Electoral College. They really would. And you might be saying, of course, he can do that. And yes, it is possible. We don't know. I mean, this is all a question. Let me put it this way. It's all a question of, will these polls overestimate or underestimate, or, pretty adequately estimate the performance of Donald Trump? Because in 2016, even more in 2020, they way underestimated the performance of Donald Trump. But I think this time is different. In 2022, Republicans, particularly the MAGA candidates, the Trump associated candidates, they were way overestimated in the polls, in the forecast, of course, across the board. It was expected to be a red wave year. It was maybe a red puddle, maybe a red trickle. Democrats way outperformed expectations. And remember, this is a post-Roe era now, and that really did change everything. It is a post-Roe era. 2016 was not. 2020 was not as well. Not to mention, on average, in the 2024 Republican primary, people don't talk about this a lot at all, but on average, across the primary states where polls were conducted, Donald Trump was overestimated in the polls, against Nikki Haley for most of them, but, DeSantis, Vivek, Christie, when all those guys were in the race, he was overestimated in the polls by an average of 7% across the board in every state. An average of 7%. That is significant. Point I'm trying to make is that the hidden Trump voter is no more. I feel that pollsters have actually cracked the code here, and there aren't going to be very many voters who are now, so embarrassed to say that they are voting for Trump like they were in 2016 and 2020. They're comfortable with saying it now. It's not a problem anymore. The time has changed. With the media narrative for so long when Biden being in the race was that Donald Trump was going to win the race, then yes, voters are now comfortable. At least more voters now are comfortable saying that they are going to vote for Trump. This this hidden Trump voter, it's not going to be as significant as it was in 2016 and 2020. I really doubt it. So when Kamala Harris is getting numbers like this, where she's ahead by 6, I would more or less trust the accuracy of these polls. Now, do I think it's spot on? No, it's not an A plus pollster. Maybe Donald Trump is being underestimated here by a point, even 2 points, but it still results in a Kamala Harris win. By every single metric, when you look at all of these polls, Kamala Harris is ahead in almost every single one. Kamala Harris, the point is undoubtedly the favorite to win the presidency in 2024. So thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to comment your thoughts about this. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel as well. That helps out big time. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.